Okay, it's Gary again. I've had a few questions on how to mount the scope mount on your rifle. I've already taken the rear sight off. It sits in this groove. You just take a brass punch, drive it sideways until it comes out. That will leave a female dovetail in there. And when you get your scope mount out of the box, it'll come like this. You'll have to take your male dovetail, unscrew this screw, that's your male dovetail with threads in it. Take your screw out. Your 3/8 rail that's already on your gun. Take your rail, set it down on it. Try to get this fairly close so you can see the dovetail will go in there. Take a screwdriver. Don't completely tighten them. Leave it so it is movable, but it won't fall off. And then if you need to, you can move it back and forth a little bit to line your dovetail up. Next thing you do is slide your dovetail in. Try to get it pretty close to center, although it will center itself when you tighten it. And then look down through the hole and move it forward until your threads are lined up, so when you drop your screw in, it'll line up with the threads. As you can see, it's pulling this down around the barrel now. Just tighten it. You don't have to over tighten it. Once you do that, this is where it needs to be. So then you can completely tighten those, same as the other. You don't have to twist them off, just tighten them snug. And that's how you mount your scope rail. Pretty simple. The hardest part is getting your sight out. People tell me, if you have a little brass punch and a hammer and you lay this down flat on a table, you can knock it out of there pretty easy. They're in there fairly good so they won't fall out, but that's how you mount your scope rail. Now, I've had people ask me about this bottom rail. As you can see, I've got one back here with a hand grip on it. This that'll fold up in there. You can hold it and shoot it. If you want to scoot off a bench, you push the button on it and it pops out. Okay, we have a Model 60 has a short trigger. 795 has the long trigger in it. I'm going to show you the long trigger first. The rail is the same rail that comes on the side. You always put your screw, you get two longer screws with it, 3/4 inch screws, wherever the last hole is in your trigger guard. So on the 795 you go all the way to the end. Put your longer screw in there. Don't completely tighten it either. You want to be able to move it. And then line this up so it's straight in line. And then you have to take a 7/64 drill bit and drill this bottom hole. Once you get it drilled, you take your second 3/4 inch screw, screw it right in, finish tightening your top screw, you've got your bottom rail on there. That is an add-on. I designed this stock with a rail on each side, but I've had a lot of people ask me. I did my own guns with a rail on the bottom just to see how it would work, and everybody seems to like it. So I will probably put these on the web page so you can purchase the bottom rail. Now I'm going to show you the Model 60, which has a short trigger. In fact, this is an old style trigger that I have had to cut down. I also have a video on how to do that for you, those of you that have an older gun. You have to cut those triggers down. But this is the Model 60 trigger. You can see it just goes from here to here. It's a shorter trigger housing instead of going all the way to the end. But again, you go in your farthest trigger hole, which would be right here on the 60 is the only difference on the mounting. You put it in your front trigger hole again on the 60, just like I'm doing here. And then you have to drill that front hole instead of the back hole on the Model 60. But once you do that, and screw those down, you've got your rail mounted on your old style Model 60 trigger. It's the same on the new style Model 60 trigger. They're the same length. The only difference is you've got a 795 trigger where you put your front screw in the front of the long trigger. On the 60, it's a short trigger. You put your first screw in the front hole of the short side of this trigger. And that allows you to mount this on there. I know you're probably looking at this too. That is a Pro Mag. And they do work in these. I've had no problem with them. That's a 25 round clip. Most of them will hold about 27 or 28. But that's pretty much all there is to putting on the front rail and the scope mount. I hope that helped you guys that are having a little bit of trouble with that. But from now on, when I get a question, I'll just refer you to the YouTube and you'll be able to see how to put it on. Thanks a lot.